Hi boys and girls. I'm making another learning video for you, and today we're going to start talking about maps. Maps and geography, a big word that we'll talk about soon, are one of the lessons that we were supposed to learn together at school during the last part of our school year. Now that we're at home learning, I'm going to make some videos about maps that you can watch at your house. And hopefully, after you watch the videos, you will be comfortable drawing your own maps. You could draw a map of the state we live in, Virginia. You could draw a map of your neighborhood. You could even draw a map of your bedroom. And we're going to learn what maps are and how to do that in these next few lessons. So I'm going to read this great book to you called Mapping Our Nation, and it has lots of really important and interesting facts about maps. So it's called Mapping Our Nation. And then after we read this book and we learn what maps are, I'm going to show you some maps over here in my atlases. An atlas is a book full of maps. So that will be helpful to us. So first let's read the book called Mapping Our Nation. You can see there's a map of the United States of America. Above us is a country called Canada, and below us is a country called Mexico. All three of these together make up the continent called North America. There are 7 continents on our planet Earth. I think we talked about that a little bit earlier in the year. And our continent where we live is called North America. Some of the other continents are South America, Europe, Asia, Antarctica, Africa, and Australia. Do you remember some of those names? Mapping Our Nation. Using maps. The United States is huge. It stretches from the Pacific Ocean, over on this side, in the western part of our country, to the Atlantic Ocean, all the way across. Here we are in Virginia, and we are near the Atlantic Ocean over here on the eastern part of our country. It is made up of 50 states. We knew that because there are 50 stars on our flag, what we pledge allegiance to every morning. Some of the states are larger than whole countries. So you can see there are 48 states here, all connected together. And then we have 2 other states. We have Hawaii, which is a set of islands out in the Pacific Ocean. And then we have an enormous state called Alaska, and it's up north here. It's kind of connected over here with Canada. It's pretty cold up there. So that makes 50 states in all. 48 connected together, plus 2 makes 50 in all. We can use maps to learn about our nation. Maps help us see the shape of the land. Maps also show us important places. Let's explore our nation. And in green it says this is a map of the United States. And here's something very important to remember about maps. Maps are a view from above, kind of like a bird's eye view. So if you were a bird and you were flying over our country, the United States of America, you would see that this is the shape of our country. That's how you make a map. You kind of picture it from above, a bird's eye view. There are tools to help us read maps. A legend or a map key explains the symbols, lines, and colors on a map. A compass rose shows the 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. Another tool is the scale. It helps us measure distances on a map. If you know how to use these tools, you can read any map. So all good maps that you're going to see always have these 3 tools on them. They have a map key, or you could call it a legend, and on it you'll see little symbols that you'll notice on the map. And so if you notice this on the map, you can look at your map key and it'll tell you what that means. So over here on this map, I see lots of those little symbols here. And I see some other ones here. So if I look at my map key over here, or there's one right here, the same one, you can see that means those are mountains. If I see a squiggly blue line like here and these over here, those are rivers on the map. So that's how you would use a map key or a legend. Down here is the compass rose with those 4 directions. So I know that Canada is north of the United States, and I know Mexico is south of the United States. And of course, we also have a scale. A scale tells you how many miles or kilometers away different parts of the map are. Now we're going to learn about some different kinds of maps. There are many types of maps. Physical maps show water, such as rivers and lakes. They also show landforms. These are natural features on Earth's surface. Mountains, deserts, and plains are landforms. And it says this is a physical map of the United States. So when we're talking about these types of landforms, mountains, some people live in deserts, some people live on plains, which are flat. We're talking about the geography of that place. That's that big word we talked about at the beginning of this video. Geography notices the different landforms in a place and the climate or the weather of a place. And then those things work together to help people in those places decide what types of clothing to wear, what types of activities to do. So for example, if you were to live in a desert, we know that that's a sandy, hot, dry place. Think about what types of clothes you would wear there and what type of activities you could do. If you lived up in the mountains where it might snow a lot, think about what types of clothing and what types of activities you could do. All of those things work together to talk about the geography of a place. The weather, the landforms, the activities, and the clothing that people wear. This page talks about another important word called elevation. That's the height of a place. That's how high up or low down it is. A mountain has a high elevation, higher than a desert. Some physical maps show elevation on them. And you can see this one over here shows elevation by using colors. Another type of map is a political map. A political map shows the borders between places. It shows how people have split up the land. Colors on this old map show the borders between states, and you can see they're kind of highlighted around each state to show where one state ends and another state begins. A political map of the United States shows the 50 states. Sometimes it shows their capitals too. Each state is like a puzzle piece. These pieces form a picture of our nation. And you can see there's our country, the United States of America. Oops, sorry about that. So we know that we live on planet Earth. And then if we kind of zoom in, remember our continent is North America. And then if we zoom in a little more, our country is the United States of America. If we zoom in again, we remember that our state that we live in is called Virginia. And if we zoom in one more time, do you remember what the capital of Virginia is? If you look closely, you can see it. It's Richmond. So that's pretty cool. A thermic map shows how people or things are spread out over a place. It may show the number of people who live in an area. And on this map, it shows where we get different types of food in our country. So where we are, look in Virginia, there's a cow. So if I go over to my map key and find the cow, I see that we raise cattle or cows in our state a lot. We can use that for milk. We could use that for beef. So that's pretty important that we have that type of food that we raise here. Other parts of our country grow or raise different things. So up north, In Maine and in New York, they grow a lot of apples. I can see that because it's on my map key. In the middle of our country and then down south, I see a chicken, and that's called poultry because we use chickens for eggs, of course, and we use them for meat. And then over here in the western part, we have other things, potatoes, up here in the state of Idaho, and we have oranges and other citrus fruits down in Florida and over in California. That's a pretty cool map. A thermic map may also show the food that is grown in that area, just like the one we saw. It may show the roads on which people travel to. So you can see this one is a road map here in the United States of America, and all the red squiggly lines are different roads that you can take to travel from one place to another. Regions. It says a region is an area of land. It has its own features. These features set it apart from other areas around it. So in our country, we can kind of think of the southern part of our country in the south. Remember, we used our compass rose for those 4 directions. This is the western part of our country over on the west side of the United States of America. Here we say this part is the Midwest because it's kind of in the middle of our country. And up here we say this is the Northeast because it's up north and it's on the eastern part. So those are the regions of our country. A region may have a certain climate or weather pattern, or maybe a special type of animal lives there. Each region has its own unique traits. And that's kind of what we were talking about geography a little earlier. Let's take a look. The Northeast, so that's up here. Remember we said it's in the north, and it's over on the eastern part of our country. And these are the states that are in the Northeast. It says there are 9 states in the Northeast region. It has cold, snowy winters. It has hot summers. The leaves turn beautiful colors in the fall, and the spring brings rain showers. And I remember if a tree changes colors, the leaves change colors in the fall. Remember, those are called deciduous trees. And here's a great picture in the background of some deciduous trees up in the Northeast changing color during the fall. It's pretty beautiful. The Northeast region is also known for the Appalachian Mountains. These are some of the oldest mountains on Earth. So that's one of the landforms you can find up in the Northeast. And here is a beautiful picture of a city in the Northeast. I know you've heard of it. It's called New York City. And you can see a beautiful symbol for our country is there, the Statue of Liberty. The South. So now we're looking at the southern region down here, and that's where we are. You look on the list, there's Virginia. We're in the southern part of our country. It says there are 16 states in the South. Most of the states in this region have warm climates. Some areas are always covered in water. These areas are called swamps. Many swamps have alligators. There are large rivers in this region that help farmers grow crops. Cotton, rice, and citrus fruits all grow well in the South. And look at this picture. Can you tell what that's a picture of? It's a picture of our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And so if I look at my map down here in the South, of course, we have Virginia. There we are. We have Texas. Here's a state called Florida, and that's where you would find a lot of these swamps. So think about that geography. If you lived down in Florida, where there were lots of swamps and it was hot all the time, think about what landforms you would see. Think about what clothes you would wear. Think about what activities you would do. Now we're going to talk about the Midwest. That's in the middle part of our country. It says there are 12 states in the Midwest region. The climate is mostly dry. The Great Plains are in this region. Remember, plains are flat pieces of land. This is a large flat area of land, and it is covered in grasses. You can see in the background lots and lots of flat land with grass growing on it. The Great Lakes are also in this region. These freshwater lakes take up over 94,000 square miles. Many fish, such as salmon and trout, live in the lakes. And you can see on the map up here in the northern part of our country, those are the Great Lakes they were talking about. They're very, very large bodies of water. Remember when we talked about natural resources in a previous video? Those lakes and the water in them, those are some of our precious natural resources in our country. We want to make sure to keep them clean and healthy. And here's the last region of our country, the West. A large area of land makes up the West. There are 13 states in this region. Their climates vary. Oregon is rainy and foggy. Colorado can be very cold. And Arizona can get very hot. So there's a lot of different geography in this part of our country. In Colorado, they have a lot of mountains, and that's why it can get very, very cold up there. So that's a landform that they have in Colorado that affects their geography and their climate. In Arizona, there are a lot of deserts, so it can get very, very hot and dry there. And then up here is a state called Oregon, and one above it called Washington State. And there it can get very, very rainy and foggy a lot of the time. Think about what clothes you would wear and what activities you would do in that type of geography. There are deserts and beaches in the West. There are also mountains. There are glaciers in Alaska. And Hawaii has volcanoes. Wow, a lot of different landforms in the West. And they have those two states we talked about that aren't connected to the rest, Alaska and Hawaii. Both of those states are in the West, and it says Alaska has glaciers, which are huge chunks of ice, and Hawaii has volcanoes, which is pretty amazing. A book of maps is called an atlas. An atlas can help you learn more about an area. It has facts and pictures about different places. And I'm going to show you a few atlases in a moment. Today, we can look at maps on computers. Some of these maps are interactive. This means that you can click on the maps to learn more about the places in our nation. And I'm glad they have this green box here because it talks about a great app that maybe if your parents have a smartphone, you can explore if they were able to download the app. It's called Google Earth. And here's a little bit of a view of it. And it says this woman is using Google Earth on a tablet. It's an amazing app. So if you download Google Earth, it will start off by showing you the whole Earth. And then it will zoom in to where you are. So it will zoom into North America, our continent, and then to the United States of America, our country, and then to Virginia, our state, and then to where you are in the town of Bealton. That is pretty cool. So Google Earth is a great app that you and your family can download and use to look at different maps of our planet. There are also some apps called Google Maps and MapQuest that will kind of do the same thing, that will show you different maps on our planet. Also, when you and your family picked up your baggie of materials and supplies last week, inside that bag was a blue and white folder. And inside that folder, I put lots of different activities, worksheets and activities that you can do that match all of the learning videos I'm making for you. And some of them are map activities, and you might enjoy doing those at home with your family. At One Nation, maps of the United States are important. Maps show the landforms on which we live. They show the rivers and lakes that help us grow food. They show the roads on which we travel. Maps show us how and why each region is different, but they also show us how these regions are all part of one nation. That's pretty cool. And then there's a great part at the end of this book that says, make it. You can make maps too. Make a map of the United States. It can be any kind of map. It may show where sports teams play or where your family members live. You can share your map with your friends. Wow. And here's the great map that these little kids, this one over here, and then the girl on this page, they were making of our country. That is pretty cool. And then at the very end of the book, it says, "Your turn, you are here." This is a political map of the United States. It shows all 50 states and their capitals. Which state do you live in? Which region is it in? List 2 features of that region. So I'm looking at our country, the United States of America, and I'm going to zoom in. And here I can see our state of Virginia. And I'm going to zoom in again, and I see that our capital for Virginia is Richmond. And I know 2 important parts about our state. I know it's in the southern region. I know that we have mountains in our state. I also know we have some different rivers, and we are right beside the Atlantic Ocean. That's pretty special and unique. So that's the end of my book, but I wanted to take just a few seconds to show you some of my atlases. Remember, an atlas is a book of maps. When this video is done, our next learning video, I'm going to show you a map that I made, just like they were encouraging you to do in that last book, to make a map of the United States. I actually made a map of something different. I made a map of a park. And I think if you were able to look at my next video, I bet you would do a great job making your own map. But first, let me show you these atlases, and then this video will be over. Our next video will show the map that I've made. So these are a couple atlases. One is an atlas of the whole world, and this one is just an atlas of Virginia. So let me just briefly show you inside this book. If I open it up, Atlas of the World, you're going to see lots and lots of maps in this book. And the first one you see is a map of the whole world, our planet Earth. It's a flat picture. And remember what I said? A map is a view from above. So if you were to take our planet Earth, which is in the shape of a ball or a sphere, and you were to flatten it out, this is what it would look like as a view from above. And so you can see our planet Earth. Then you can see the 7 big pieces of land called continents. Do you remember which one we live on? Let me zoom in. We are on the continent called North America. And then if we zoom in again, you can see our country, the United States. And here we are over in this part where Virginia is. That's pretty cool. That's where we are on the map. And if I keep turning the page, you can see different maps of our world. Here's a map just of North America, the continent that we live on. And if I keep going through, you can see, oh, here's a great map of our country, the United States of America. Here we are in Virginia, and I even see Richmond. If you look closely, you can see all kinds of states that we read about in the last book. That's pretty cool. And you can see the different regions of our country. There's the Western region. Now we're moving into other parts of the world. Here's a map over here of Europe and Asia. Here's a map of Africa. Here's a map of Australia. That's pretty cool. I wonder if you have any maps in your house, or maybe you and your family can look for some online. And here is my atlas of Virginia. So if I look inside, there's a map of our whole world with the 7 different continents. Here we are in North America. But then the rest of my book, I can see that it's going to focus on Virginia because here's a map of our country. And look, they have Virginia highlighted over here for us to see. And then you can see different maps from our state. Here's a map of the town of Richmond, our capital. That's pretty cool. Here's a map that shows where the mountains are in our state. Here's a map of Virginia that shows where our different rivers are. That's pretty neat. So you can see lots of different maps like we talked about in the book that I read to you here, and they're all focusing on Virginia. That's pretty cool. This is a neat one. This says route to Jamestown. Jamestown? Do you remember learning about Jamestown? The folks came over from Europe and they made our first town named after King James called Jamestown. And that's when they met the Native Americans. Remember, Pocahontas was able to help them start up their crops and learn how to hunt and fish. That's a really neat map for us because we learned about Jamestown. We have tons and tons of different maps showing special things that have happened in Virginia. Here's a great map. We kind of learned about this one over in our other book, where you can see different types of plants and animals that are raised in different parts of Virginia. That's pretty cool. And here we have our map key or our mapped legend to show us what each one is. Now this one, if I looked closely, I don't know if I would know what that is right away. But if I use my map key and go over, I find out that's cotton. They grow cotton a lot in the southern part of our state. Here's the scale. Remember we talked about the scale where we can see how many miles or kilometers away something is. There are the different towns, and see, there's, look, Culpeper. There's Fauquier County. That's the county that we live in. So that's pretty cool. It shows lots of towns and counties in our state. So this is a really great atlas for us because it shows all kinds of different special things from Virginia. I hope you enjoyed the book that I read to you when we're starting to learn about maps. Remember, maps are a view from above. And I hope you enjoyed looking at the atlases of maps with me. Maybe you and your family could go online and perhaps download that app called Google Earth, or maybe one of the other map apps we talked about, or maybe you have an atlas or a map somewhere in your house like I do. I think it would be cool to go and explore those. And maybe, if you're comfortable, you can even draw a map like they did at the back of our book of our country, the United States of America, or even just our state of Virginia. That would be amazing. I hope you enjoyed our first video about maps, and the next ones will explore even more about them. I hope you have a great day. I miss you so much. I'll see you soon.